And there we go. Well, good evening. Oh, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I'm so used to us doing these in the evening time. But it's our absolute pleasure here at North South Travel to welcome Alison May with us tonight in her time over in Cape Town there, 9 hours ahead. So thank you so much, Alison, for joining us. And thank you to everyone for joining us here today for another one of our North South Travel virtual travel presentations. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kemi Wells and I'm the Director of Business Development at North South Travel. And it's been our honor to try and ensure we can keep our clients engaged and allow you to still dream about travel despite the challenges that we're going through day to day. But we know that travel will be back, and we felt it was really important to ensure you could still dream and think about those major bucket list trips, and we know Africa is so high up there on so many people's lists. I can't wait to go myself. I was actually scheduled to be in Kenya last month and sadly had to postpone. But again, it's about that postponement to next year rather than cancellation. And in testament to that, I'm even wearing my animal stripes tonight. So and Alison as well. So yeah, thank you again for everyone for joining us. And we will be doing questions and answers at the end. So at any time during the presentation, please feel free to write in the chat box down below any questions you might have, and I'll pull those together at the end. And for those who just joined, we suggest putting it to speaker view on the top right-hand side for the presentation. But without any further ado, I'd like to pass you over to Alison. Wilderness Safaris are one of our fantastic partners that we work with in destination. So anytime we're sending clients to Africa, it's great for us to have in-the-ground partners that we know will take care of our clients. And what's so amazing about Wilderness is that they not only operate on the ground, they actually own and operate their own lodges as well as having a fantastic conservation efforts, which Alison will talk you more through tonight. So we hope everyone can sit back, relax and enjoy the presentation. And Alison, over to you, and thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you, Kemi, and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for joining this travel dreaming series to Africa. And I hope you enjoy, and any questions you have, just pop them in the chat. Just two of our clients. The first screen is two of our clients that have been in camp the last couple of months. On my left of the screen, the leopard on the boardwalk had her cubs under our room tent number 2. And the leopard on the right of my screen is actually the great-grandson of Legadima. You may or may not know the movie called Eye of the Leopard. Great movie, filmed in one of our concessions, and his great-grandmother. So her legacy still lives on. And so we're going to journey mostly through Southern Africa and showcase what we can offer you as clients to various different countries that we operate in. And whilst you're still dreaming, or when your dreams become a reality, both Kemi and I will be every step of the way to take you through the safari. If we look at a map of Southern Africa, we will be focusing on the 5 countries as well as 2 in East Africa, so Rwanda and Kenya. And I thought we'd start in Kenya, being basically the new gateway to Africa. You can fly direct into Nairobi, Jomo Kenyatta Airport, and Nairobi connects directly to various different countries, including Rwanda and Zambia. So it's an easy connection, and you can either fly direct from the US into Nairobi, or direct from the US into Rwanda as well. We have one lodge in Kenya that we market, and and it's a Segera retreat. And for me, I like to describe it as a sensory experience, from everything from gastronomical delights for food to it's based in the heart of the Laikipia Plateau, which is sort of central Kenya, and easy access from there to different areas within Kenya, down to the Masai Mara, etc. And if you've ever wanted to experience a bird nest, Segera is the place to do it. This is the very unusual, different sleep out experience that you can actually do there. Next country, Rwanda. And Rwanda is obviously known for its gorillas, but it has so much more to offer than just the gorillas. The capital of Rwanda is Kigali, and that's where you fly into. And Rwanda has currently they have a 2 COVID test protocol. So majority of the countries require you to have a COVID negative test, either from anything from 120 hours or 5 days to 72 hours or 3 days prior to departing the US or Canada. And then once you get to Kigali, you have to do a second test. So you'll arrive in Kigali airport and they will do the test there. You proceed to your hotel and you are in quarantine. They say that the tests are anything from 8 to 24 hours. So you would be required to stay overnight. We currently actually recommending that you stay 2 nights because there's so much to do in Kigali. So once your test is negative, you can continue to explore the country. Kigali is an incredibly clean, safe, and friendly city. And there's anything from the flamboyant markets to local art to coffee plantations and tea plantations to cultural visits, as well as the Genocide Museum. We definitely recommend a visit to that. It's very poignant, it's very memorable, but it's incredible how the country has come around from that tragedy. And traveling in Rwanda, for me, I think epitomizes regenerative travel. So it's where your vacation meets your values, and it takes it that little bit further than just sustainable travel, where we're actually reinvesting in the country and giving back to the communities and to the wildlife. So Basati, this is one of the iconic pictures of our lodge, and built in traditional Rwandan architect design, externally and internally, and is really a fully cultural immersion from start to finish. One of the conservation projects that we have at Basati is our reforestation project, and clients you can actually get to enjoy this and take part in it. What we did was we had this vision some 5 years ago. Actually, we started negotiating with the landowners in Rwanda. Rwanda has tiny little plots of land and is very, very agriculturally intense. So there were 127 different landowners that we approached, and we bought up these little pockets of land. It's on a hill, so less fertile soil and no people actually staying on these plots of land, with the idea that we would reforest this area back to its original habitat. And that's what we have proceeded to do with the help of you, our clients. What was so remarkable was that when the local communities heard what our intention was one of the gentlemen went off, collected seeds, and started planting trees on his own. And when we eventually moved into the area to build Basati, he had all these little seedlings, and he is now our head nurseryman of the nursery at Basati. And we have planted together, we've planted over 30,000 trees in a space of about 3 years. But it's not only just about the forest. I actually saw a Facebook clip today of, we've got a camera trap. So it's a camera set up on an animal pathway that monitors the wildlife that goes past during the day and at nighttime. And today there's a new pack of jackal, a family of jackal that's been seen, as well as a genet and a serval. So these are animals that are slowly coming back into the area that were never there before. And so it's an all-encompassing project, not just about forest and trees, but about creating habitat for other animals, as well as preventing soil erosion and better water supplies, and yeah, it's really an incredible conservation visionary project that you can be part of. And then obviously Rwanda and Basati is all about the gorillas. Some of the new post-COVID protocols, if you like, they've reduced the size from the gorilla trekking size of people from 8 to 6. So it's only 6 people now. It's mandatory to wear face masks, and you're still only allowed 1 hour with the gorillas, and a distance of 12 feet. And that's obviously because gorillas are they share 98.3% of our DNA, and they can catch human diseases. So we want to protect them as best we possibly can. And then one final thing to remember with the gorillas is that you also require a test, a COVID negative test, only 48 hours prior to going to the gorillas. So that is something we take into consideration when we're planning your trip. And we would now recommend that you go first to Basati, do the gorillas, and then experience the rest of the country. And talking of the rest of the country, a little relatively unknown gem is Akagera National Park, which is in the east of the country, and it's the last conserved, protected savanna ecosystem in Rwanda, and hence one of the reasons why wilderness safaris wanted to get involved with the Rwanda Development Board and African Parks. So we have a lodge here called Magashi, and it really does create this incredible circuit within the country to do an extraordinary gorilla trek and then visit Magashi for your typical savanna safari experience. And what's exciting about Magashi is because it's relatively new, we are doing various projects and research on the introduced animals. So lion have been reintroduced to the area 2015, and then again lion were introduced in 2017. Black rhino have been reintroduced. Leopard are being habituated, and their identikits are being formed of different habituated leopards. But as clients, you can go with our head guide and actually track some of the lion. they have colors, and it's all important research into population dynamics, the different lion numbers within the park, where they go, and creating identikits of each individual lion. So that's something our clients can get to learn and experience and enjoy. And with the protection of that critical savanna ecosystem within Akagera National Park, so too are you protecting the species that occur there. And if any of you are birders, this is an African shoebill, which is critically endangered, and it's one of the lifers. And I can honestly not wait to be able to tick this one off my bird list. So that's what we're going to touch on East Africa, so Rwanda and Kenya. And now we'll move down into Southern Africa and touch on Zambia, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Botswana, and then end at South Africa. It's really actually very easy to get into Zambia. Even now, you can fly direct from into Nairobi, and then connect from Nairobi, has direct flights from Nairobi into Lusaka, which is one of the airports in Zambia. So they're the two airports, Lusaka and Livingstone. And Wilderness Air, which is our bush charter company, part of Wilderness Safaris, flies from both Livingstone and Lusaka. So easy access into the Kafue National Park. And I really like to describe Zambia as wildest Africa. And for me, I think this is how Botswana was 35, 40 years ago. It is least traveled, but really, really rewarding. You have mini migrations of various species like buffalo, and without all the hordes of people that you tend to get in East Africa. And because of the topography and the climate and the geography, the camps are actually seasonal in Kafue National Park. So Kafue National Park is one of the largest parks in Africa. It is 8,600 odd square miles. It's remote, very wild, and has diverse, vast tracts of pristine wilderness. The Basanga swamps, which are in the north of the Kafue, are papyrus-dominated wetlands, which give way in summer to the Basanga Plains, which is the picture we have in front of us. So these are seasonal grasslands interspersed with tree islands. And one of the best activities that you can do here is hot air ballooning. It's mesmerizing and encapsulating and just incredible to float quite silently over the Basanga wetlands and Kafue National Park, and something truly to dream about and make into a realization when you get to this iconic country. One of the things that Zambia is known for is its tree climbing lions, and this is an unusual lion trait. Lions don't normally climb trees, and researchers think that they have developed this for a couple of different reasons. One is, if you think of Basanga Plains, it's very flat, and with tall grasses in late summer. So visibility is going to be a little difficult for lions, and they visibly see their prey. So they climbed a tree just by chance, and it gives them a higher vantage point, and also is cooler. They're obviously going to get some of the breeze. So quite often you see tree climbing lions in Zambia. What perhaps isn't that well known is that our Africa lion population has dwindled to just half of its original number. And this is mainly due to habitat loss and various other reasons. So that resulted in the birth of our Lionscape Coalition. In lion terms, we talk about a male coalition, and that is a one or two males which have split off from the pride as young adults will join up together, forming this coalition, which is basically stronger, more than one. There's safety in numbers. So if I've got myself or if my brother and his cousin join together in a coalition, they're going to be much more powerful and much stronger to survive and succeed. And so the Lionscape Coalition is something where a group of us and our competitors in the same field have joined together, where we pay membership fees, and any of you staying at our lodges, a percentage of that bed night fee goes towards the Lionscape Coalition. And it's about increasing the numbers of lion within areas that perhaps aren't accessible for tourists, but are great lion habitat. So then they would take proceeds that are raised, profits that are raised, and give it to lion conservation. And then, of course, the Victoria Falls, which is obviously accessible either from the Zambia side or the Zimbabwe side. And I'm going to try and play a video. I hope it's going to work with the Wi-Fi. There's a national park in Zambia called Musayatunya National Park, which is loosely translated into the smoke that thunders. And I hope you can hear this. Try. So that is just a brief example of seeing the Victoria Falls from the Zambia side. And this was a little video that I took in April. So you can see that there are different times of the year that it's actually better on the Zambia side than it is on the Zimbabwe side. It's not the highest falls, but it is the widest falls. A full expanse of the biggest part of the waterfall is, I think, 1.2 kilometers wide. And it never ever dries up. What happens is it gets narrower, and where we're looking now is directly across into Zimbabwe. So when it's lower volume, which is anything from September, October through to January, there's still huge amounts of volume of water coming through on on the Zimbabwe side, but drier on the Zambezi side. When it's at its highest, it's actually just too wet to see anything from the Zimbabwe side. And it actually, the mist comes up from the valley and falls as fake rain, in inverted commas, and you are absolutely drenched. So good reason to visit it on the Zambia side as well. And that leads us straight into Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is an easy walk across a bridge. We actually drive you, we don't make you walk, from Zambia into Zimbabwe. You hold your hand every step of the way, because wilderness safaris is so well known, and it's an easy process through the border control. And or you can access it via Victoria Falls or Harare. There's two different airports. So you can go from Rwanda to Namibia to Zambia to Zimbabwe. And Zimbabwe, I believe, is a phenomenal safari experience. It's very understated. Didn't always get the greatest publicity in the 70s and 80s as a country. However, the national parks are really good for wildlife, and it is an excellent value for a 5-star experience. So there are two different areas within Zimbabwe that we have our lodges. The first one being Mana Pools. And Mana Pools National Park is in the heart of the Zambezi Valley with a broad river. This is the Zambezi, floodplains, riverine woodland, and that Rift Valley escarpment as a backdrop. And the floodplains, which are in the foreground of this photograph, they have rich alluvial soils, which are high in nutrients. And that supports the riverine forest and the floodplain grasslands, which therefore leads to a rich and varied mammal life. Mana Pools, Mana is Shona, the local language, which means four. And it talks to the four massive pools along this river frontage, which are remnants of channels that stopped flowing a number of years ago. And then in camp, we have, as part of that riverine forest, there are anise seeds, as well as albizia. And just to go back to this picture, you really do get elephants trying to get to the pods, and they walk through the camp, as well as eland. I think the anopods are like ice cream and chocolate sauce to eland and elephants. And it's incredible to be in the camp and have this wild animals that are unperturbed, that people are in their space. And it's just an incredible experience to be able to be so close to wildlife and watch them in their natural environments. And then the other area that is a must is Hwange National Park. Now, Hwange is one of the largest, one of the densest populated wildlife parks in Africa. Our concessions are private concessions. They neighbor to the national park. There isn't a fence, but it is exclusive. So if you're with us on safari, it's only clients that are in our lodges that have access to that concession area. But we are also able to access the national park. So it doubles our footprint, if you like. And it's an all year round destination. And you'll see why. One of the loveliest areas in Hwangi, in our concession, is called Ngamu Plains, and it's in the east of our concession. Massive area. It's like a little Serengeti. Grassland, so short grassland with some water holes, and the animals just congregate at these water holes. And then in summer, because it's wide open plains, it's the antelope feel relatively secure in birthing there. So you'll have all sorts of different ungulants that give birth at the start of summer. So our summer is October through to March. So you'll have birthing after the first summer rains, which is end of November, beginning of December. And you can have everything from buffalo to eland to sable to zebra to giraffe to cheetah, all on these plains together. And in fact, I took a group and we came across a cheetah mother and her sub-adult cub, and she had killed an impala, and they were feeding on it. And then a little while later, our guide heard something, and he got very excited and very animated. And then the sun had already set, sadly, but out of the riverine forest came this leopard, and there was this interaction with a leopard and a cheetah, which is unheard of, where the cheetah chased the leopard off for kill, but then was too nervous to come in himself. So the hyenas probably got lucky that night. But you have all these different predator-prey reactions that happen on Ngamu Plains, and hence being an all-year-round destination. Great destination for summer and winter. And a little bit of history with Hwangi National Park. Back in the day when it was first opened and operated, Ted Davison, who was the chief game warden, they set up water holes and pumped water out of the ground to water holes to support the animals, and particularly in dry seasons. And so over the years, many years, the animals have learned where these water holes are and expect water to be there. So we can't just shut off the water. Wilderness Safaris has 20 different water boreholes that we maintain and look after, and we actually are slowly changing them from being engine driven to being solar driven. But it's debatable as to, we can have a long debate about whether they should be there or shouldn't be there, but the fact is that they are there and the animals know that they're there. And it does create these incredible scenes of wildlife there. I've watched an elephant don't run. They can't run, but they do lope. And I've watched these baby elephants literally running down to the water holes because they're so excited to see the water in winter. And then, just as a completely different activity, you can also get to visit our Wekau camp, which is where our anti-poaching unit lives, and they will give you a talk and an introduction on what they do, and it's heartfelt. It can be quite emotional. The collection of snares, the poaching that does happen, but without the anti-poaching unit, it would be so much worse. So it's an education for you as a client to get to experience it. They'll show you how a snare is set. They might even take you on a little walk and show you how they track footprints. It's really educational, and and something that's added on and part of your journey, if you are so interested. Next country is Namibia. And Namibia is all about its size. A colleague of mine once said to me, we all know that the world is vast. In Namibia, you feel it. And it's so true. It's about its vastness. It's about its sense of space, unfathomable beauty, and also desert adapted wildlife. There are astonishing contrasts which are everywhere for you to savor, enjoy, and photograph. And Namibia, the country, is actually named after the Namib, which is the oldest desert on the planet. Within the country, there's 14 different regional areas, and I've just broken them up into sort of 4 major areas. Right up north, the locals refer to it as the end of the earth, which is the Kouaka-veld. And it's isolated, one of the harshest environments on the planet. Stark plains, ancient valleys, and rugged peaks. However, the life force of this region is the permanent Kunene River. And you can see our lodge on the right-hand side, Serikafema. This river is one of the very few permanent rivers in Namibia, and it provides life to a variety of animals, including zebra, giraffe, springbok, elephant, as well as the local semi-nomadic tribe, the Himba. Next region, the Skeleton Coast. And this is described as having lonely beaches, but there's actually a lot more to see and explore. At our lodge, which is called Hwanib, we have a research station and various researchers that do, there's a long-standing lion coloring wildlife conflict management project that's been on the go there, as well as a new PhD study on brown hyena. And you, if you go to the camp, can get to interact with the researchers, whoever might be in camp at that time, and learn about the different projects that are on the go. And then one of the really great activities to do is to drive all the way to the coast, get to experience Moa Bay, which has a museum, some artifacts. It's a full day outing. It's about 3.5 hours one way, and then you charter a flight back. And then there's these deafening sounds of the seal colonies that occur there as well. So that's a full day outing while you're in the Skeleton Coast. And it's incongruous to when you think that you're in a desert, but it's actually, there's all this water around which you can't drink. So quite something to experience. Damaraland. Damaraland is characterized by flat top mountains, broad valleys, and dry riverbeds. The majority of the rivers in Namibia are sporadic. They don't flow half the year, never mind all year round. They're very sporadic. The Howab River flows sporadically, but what's incredible is there's water underground, and you can see where the river goes by the tree-lined course. So there's no water above ground, but it is underground, and there's trees that line the river courses. And animals congregate in these dry riverbeds. Elephant will dig to access water. And it is even able to support large mammals like the black rhino. Another favorite conservation project of mine is this one. And it's Wilderness Safaris joined forces with a private rhino fund NGO, as well as the local community and conservancy. And over a number of years have successfully saved this population of desert adapted black rhino in Namibia. It's the largest free-ranging population of black rhino in an unprotected or not national protected park, because the conservancies are owned by the local people. And just by staying at Desert Rhino Camp, a percentage of your bed night goes back towards this black rhino conservation project. And then another unusual conservation project that is currently on the go. A lot of the free-ranging lion, are collared and are tracked by that lion conservation project that I mentioned earlier. What we've just done this year during COVID is actually, during the pandemic, so Damaraland is geographically, it's not designed for agriculture. It doesn't have enough water to support farming. So at this farm, which is called Driefontein, literally translates to 3 fountains, is their livelihood are goats. And where you have goats and where you have wild animals, you inevitably have conflict. The lion don't know that they're not supposed to eat the goats, and the goats are easy prey. So over the years, what we discovered was that it's a relatively simple enclosure, or what the locals called a kraal, and providing the lion can't actually see the goats and the goats can't see out, they are relatively protected. So, and the contraption in the front of the picture is radio transmitted to the collars, which give an early warning detection. So that alerts the locals that the lions are in the area, and so they are able to get their goats into the kraal in time before the lion actually get into the area. And so we are preventing this human-wildlife conflict, and thus protecting the lions. Last area for Namibia is the Sossusvlei, and this is the red dunes of the Namib. Tallest dunes in the world. If you think that tree is probably about 8 or 9 foot, you can imagine the size of these dunes. One of them is called Big Daddy, and it's a must to climb. It's just all about vastness, splendor, solitude. And then an incredible vegetation phenomenon, also called or known as the dead flay. You can actually walk to the dead flay. These trees are over 900 years old. it shows that there was a flay is like a swamp area or a lake. So it shows that there was water and vast amounts of water 900 odd years ago. And now something happened underground, the river dried up and the trees died, but it's too dry for them to decompose. So there you have dead flay. Botswana, the holy grail of safaris, I like to call it. It has so much to offer, a variety of activities as well as a diversity of species. The Okavango Delta is a World Heritage Site, and it's actually a fluke of nature. So the majority of Botswana is Kalahari Desert sand. And in the central northern part, you get this winter water wonderland. And what happened 50 odd thousand years ago was a tectonic shift in the plates and two different occasions. And so you get this very slight depression, which is the delta. And so for a period of 2 or 3 months, it actually captures the rain that has fallen in Angola, which is 600 miles away, comes down in the rivers flood their banks. And because it's such a low difference in height level, it's this gradual inundation, which takes about 2 months, and then it slowly dissipates and gets absorbed into the ground and recedes. So this is midwinter in the Okavango Delta. Maun, which is the town in Botswana, is the gateway to the Delta. And on any one day, you'll see at least 40 different little charter planes waiting to take off to go on to safari. 3 different areas within Botswana: the Linyanti, the Okavango Delta, and the Kalahari Plains. So this is the Linyanti, right up north in Botswana, and 2 different river systems. The Savuti Channel, which is an incredible, mysterious channel that sometimes flows backwards. This is in winter, so it shows you just how dry it can get. And just due east of Savuti, which is where this photo is taken, is another, or the other watercourse, which is the Linyanti River frontage. And an incredible area on the left-hand side of my screen is Namibia, where the tree line is, and on the right-hand side is Botswana. And it's one of the best ways to end a safari day is on the King's Pool barge and a sunset cruise. The Delta, Okavango Delta, where lions have learned to swim and antelope are aquatic. And it's just a way of adaptation. When you've got water all around you for 6 months of the year, and then that's in winter, and then in summer it rains, you got to be able to swim to move from island to island. So the lions have learned to swim, and different antelope are adapted to living nearly permanently in water. This is a Sitatunga. It is actually quite a shy and rare antelope, and we always get very excited when we see them. But it has these incredible adaptations to surviving in the Delta, like having webbed feet and an oil to protect their coat. And they will actually completely submerge themselves with just their nostrils sticking out to try and escape predators. But it's not only the antelope that like their feet wet, it's our clients as well. And one of the wow factors that we put on is dining on the Delta floor. And it's a great experience. It's a great way to have a lunch and really to get to immerse yourself in the journey. But just a couple of 3 different pictures of our lodges showing the different categories. So this is Pilo, which is an adventure camp, and the lowest of our categories. It has ensuite shower, canvas tent, and the most incredible outdoor bucket shower as well. Mid-range, classic, typical African safari style tents, being Little Vim, and then onto your premier 5-star ultra luxe lodges. And these are throughout Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Zambia. So from the big stuff to the little stuff and everything in between. And I'm going to see, I hope this video will also play. This was actually sent to me by a friend from Abu Camp. It's our latest little herd member. She was born only a couple of months ago. Let's see if I can get that to play. The Abu herd is part of the experience that you can do at Abu, and it's a habituated herd which have come together for various different reasons, and none of their own making, and you can get to interact with the herd, learn about elephant conservation, spend a night in this sleep out at the elephant boma, and that's part of one of the experiences that you can do in the Delta. And then finally, South Africa. I'm not going to spend much time on South Africa, just to say that we offer a full DMC service. As Kemi mentioned right at the beginning, we are here as your ground handler. DMC is Destination Management Company. We will do everything for you from start to finish. So if you need a hotel, if you need a transfer, if you need a tour, that's what we do. And then just to mention, there are quite a few different properties, 5-star game lodges that are malaria free. Whether it's 3 hours out of Cape Town, where Cape Town drive to Sambona, or whether it's a flight to Tswalu, which is in the Northern Cape. Eastern Cape have some of the most incredible wildlife and game reserves, not well known. Eastern Cape, it's not your traditional safari grassland, but it has different types of habitat that can support the wildlife. And then Limpopo, north of Johannesburg, there's Madikwe Game Reserve, as well as the Waterberg, which are other phenomenal game reserves, not well known, that don't have, that are malaria free. And that is me, Kemi.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Alison, for taking us on that journey all around. And I'm sure everyone at home could see how diverse the continent is. Africa. It's so vast, and even within each country, which kind of sometimes makes it difficult for everyone to think where they should even go. And one of the questions we got was, do the tours go to each separate country? And what I should preface is, most of we kind of, as travel advisors at North South, we have two ways. Most clients would go to Africa. Some would join a small group tour, and a lot of clients we would fully customize a tour. So we would put together, depending on which country you wanted to go to, or which couple of countries you'd like to combo with, depending on what time of year you want to go and what you would like to see and what your budget is and things like that. That's why when we would kind of listen to what you're most keen to see and do, and then decide and give suggestions on perhaps which country pairing to do. But Alison, I mean, a lot of people who have never been before, typically first time safari, a lot of people do want to start in South Africa. That's what comes to mind for them. Flying into Cape Town, having a few days in the city, and then maybe pairing it with a lodge somewhere. So would you always suggest, or what are your thoughts about pairing it with other parts of South Africa itself, like Kruger, obviously, is very famous, people think about, or even doing it Cape Town and then comboing with a Botswana or Zambia or Zimbabwe?
Yeah, so that is what we definitely recommend. You can, and the majority of clients do that. They'll come and do a safari, and then they'll want to visit Cape Town because of all the iconic, various things in Cape Town, and then even add on Victoria Falls if they haven't been. To discuss the differences between South Africa reserves and the countries that we've just visited is a whole nother presentation.
Yeah.
And because national parks, you're governed by the rules of national parks. So you can't drive off road, you can't drive at nighttime. They're fenced, so therefore they require management intervention. Whereas and then you have a lot of people in those parks in a relatively small area. Whereas in a private concession in Zimbabwe, for example, in Hwangi, you don't have any of those conditions. And so it's a much more real, authentic safari experience, if I can put it like that.
Yeah, great, thank you. One question came up about children, and do you believe safari is a good family holiday? And what about minimum ages? Because I believe different lodges might have different minimums, but what in your experience, kind of the range, or when you think it might be a peak time that onwards would be great to take children on safari?
I think any age for a child. What I would have done to have gone on safari at 6 years old. That is our age. We take from 6 years old. We can take younger, but then you would have to take sole use of the camp, and we would have to get special permission for that. But from 6 to 12 is our child rate, where the only prerequisite is that you have to book a private vehicle. And there's a number of reasons for that. It allows the family the ability to chop and change and the freedom to do what they want, and the time limits as well. And it also doesn't impact on other guests having small children on the vehicle.
Sure.
And then teenagers 12 to 17. So our child rate is up until 17 years old. And I would suggest any age from 6 years and up to come on safari. They're our next generation of supporters and advocators and conservationists. So it's a great way for them to learn.
Great. And I wish I also got to go on safari as a child, but make up to it in adult life, I hope, when I get out there.
Yeah.
You talk about a good point there. We had a question about conservation, and someone said, they're very impressed by the conservation efforts you do. is this normal? Is it typical? And I just want to preface saying I had spoken with Alison about ensuring we included it, because I think you do it naturally as a wilderness, but that's again what sets them apart. So I was like, we actually want to make sure you do talk about it, because when I first started I've always seen about safari, and sometimes, being quite honestly, the price seems too much, or, out of my standard budget. But in recent years, as I've started to understand what work you do, what amazing work that you do, and some other partners as well that we have, but not every company does. And I think that's a lot of the time is tied into the price as well. And maybe you could talk more about your efforts and how that kind of adds up compared to other companies.
Yeah, so I do see that actual question here. It's not normal, and I actually like to describe Wilderness Safaris as a conservation company that does tourism and not the other way around. It really does set us apart. There are some other companies out there that do good work. I don't think it's to the scale that Wilderness Safaris does, because Wilderness Safaris is 38 years old. So we have that expertise and that experience of being around for so long, knowing what works, having these incredible relationships with the communities that surround the lodges, and an understanding from these communities. So then they buy into the conservation practices that we do. Our vision is to conserve and protect Africa's wilderness and her wildlife. And we really live and breathe that vision. And the majority of the staff within Wilderness, there's 2,500 of us, they live and breathe that vision as well. And I think that's what makes a difference within Wilderness Safaris. It is, and I'm not just saying this because I work for Wilderness, but it is the most incredible company, and it does take, the environment is at the heart of what we do, and we stand by that. So where we build a lodge, how we build our lodges, whether it's going to have any negative impact on the environment, we mitigate all of that. And then a more than 5% of our profits are given back annually to conservation and community projects. So we really are making a difference in the areas that we are established in.
Great. And so are guests that join and choose to go with your company. So that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
We had another question around the difference between prices changing between low and high seasons. For example, I know certain places are known for peak times, obviously standard things like, I think, spring break over here and festive time. But is there, I know it's so hard because there's so many different factors into pricing, but what can you kind of expect to shave off if you go in low season, which sometimes can still be a fabulous time of year to travel?
Absolutely. So if you look at Zimbabwe and Hwange, that really is an all year round destination, and you're looking at, off the top of my head, at least 35% off from a high season rate to a low season rate, and then because we have to have a month to determine what high season is, we also have shoulder season, which is a phenomenal time to travel. You're almost getting the best of high season, but at a 30% shaved off rate. So it does vary according to country. And so
that's great. And that's where the collaboration comes in, and us understanding our clients' needs and then kind of working with you as our partner to get the best value.
Correct.
and understand about the differences between the different times of year. One thing I wanted to touch on is about traveling light, because I think a lot of people don't realize that there's really quite strict restrictions, I believe, on luggage for, especially for those little planes you're doing. But equally, people typically, if they can, want to go for a longer period of time. If they go to Africa, say for a 2 to 3 week period. But I even just saw on my Instagram, someone's there right now, and she's like, it's so cruel. They make us do it to X amount of weight. And it's really, she kind of just joked because she's going for a month. And so I just thought you could touch about the weight restrictions with the traveling, and how then you even think about packing for such an amazing trip.
So first up, yes, there are weight restrictions, and it's because of the flights. 100% correct, Kemi. So you can only take a maximum of 20 kilograms, and it has to be a soft-sided bag without a frame to be able to fit into the pod of the plane, which is relatively small. But however, if you think about what you need, there is the laundry facilities at all of the lodges. So, and we never recommend a one-night stay. So you're either going to stay at a lodge for 2 nights or 3 nights, or even longer if you choose. So you have time to do laundry at the lodge. And if you're going on to, say, Cape Town or somewhere else in South Africa, we can also store your luggage. So you can bring whatever, within reason, what you want to, and then have a bag that you repack when you land in Maun or when you land in Kigali, and then repack for your safari, and we'll actually store luggage for clients. But it's not because we're trying to be difficult, and it's not because we don't want you to take your favorite shoes or whatever you want to take with you, but it's about safety, and we have to be very, very careful of weight within the small charter aircraft, and so much so that the pilot will actually sometimes put people in various seats so that the aircraft is balanced according to weight and size. So it goes down to that much that they pay attention to, and therefore we have a maximum of 20 kilograms per person.
Great, thank you. I just have 2 last questions as we wrap up, and sorry everyone, we have slightly gone over time, but hopefully you've been enjoying and hearing the variety of different experiences. So one was, if the experience like the hot air ballooning, the things like the special dinner on the Delta, do we have to pre-book them for our clients? And what if there's weather changes? Someone had just asked about that pre-book.
Yes, so there are 1 or 2 activities that are extra cost, like the hot air balloon, and that's the only one that I can think of that I showed now in this presentation. So that would be pre-booked, and we generally suggest or recommend that you spend 3 nights. The trip to the Skeleton Coast, that day trip to Moa Bay, that is free if you stay 3 nights or more. And why we do that is because of weather. So if the fog comes in from the sea, or the weather's bad and we can't fly, then we can't do it. If you're there for 3 days, we at least have 3 days to choose from. So hot air ballooning would be pre-booked, and the same applies. If weather comes in, then we obviously can't do it. The other wow factors that we do, and we'll always incorporate at least one into your journey, they are very much up to the camp to decide. Individual camps decide on what they want to do for clients. If your client has a particular interest or a particular like, we can collaborate and ask. But again, it's up to staffing that are in camp, because that all creates a whole nother group of staff that need to go and set that up and make sure it's 100%. So it's got to do with staffing and obviously weather as well.
Yeah.
But the camps also speak to each other. So, you know, if you don't do it at Pilo, you'll do it at Little Vumbra.
Okay.
And it will be a wow experience.
And that's a good reminder just about the fact safaris are typically all inclusive. So again, some people might not understand the pricing and think, oh, it seems maybe over what, you know, a typical holiday would be, but not, of course, it's not a typical holiday because it's kind of a once in a lifetime, or apparently many more. Once you go on your first safari, it's something you'll
Yes.
have to do again. It is typically, the majority of it is the all inclusive. Your game drives are all included, your meals, your beverages, including alcohol, sundowners, the cool where they set up the picnic table for sunset, or, you know, all that is included in the price, isn't it? And then there's just extras that we do. So it's kind of, might seem like a lot up front, but then when you're on the trip, you haven't got to be looking and paying for loads of things every single day.
100%. Absolutely everything is included except for gratuities and those extra add-ons like hot air ballooning or gorilla permit.
Great.
But when you're thinking it's accommodation, it's 4 meals a day, it's all your alcohol, you know, drinks, 2 activities, it really does even it out once you take all that into consideration.
And well worth it. I've never heard of anyone who's come back from a safari and said it wasn't worth every single penny. And just to wrap up here, beach combos. A lot of people, you know, they do the safari or and then they want to finish and maybe go to Zanzibar or Mozambique or Seychelles. So that's quite a common combo, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And we can also do that for your clients. It's often a combo actually that they do a safari and then
safari first, right? Because it can be quite exhausting. It's incredible, but the early morning game drive or late night game drive, napping in the daytime, and then kind of finish with the beach trip. So yeah.
No, it's a long day. I mean, in the summer you're getting up at 5 a.m. and you're going on safari or doing an activity, and then you come back and you'll have a siesta time, but then you're going out late, you know, 4:30 till 8 at night. Then you have dinner. So, you know, you're only getting to bed at like 11.
Yeah.
And for some of us, that's a long day.
Like you today, because it's now 10:15 in Cape Town. So with that, I would like to thank you again to everyone who's joined us today. Thank you to Alison for joining us and staying up late in Cape Town. Thank you. Because of the time difference, we have some of my friends and clients in the UK that are able to join us, which has been lovely. So thank you to everyone, and thank you, Alison, for your time and your commitment at Wilderness, for all the amazing things you do. And we hope this gave you some insight. Of course, 1 hour is not enough to go over all of Africa, but we hope this gave you some highlights, and we hope to share some more stories and adventures with you in the future as you keep dreaming about travel, and we wait for those days we can start planning and get things to look forward to in the future. So thank you again, Alison.
Thank you, Kimmy.
Thank you for everyone for joining us. Take care, stay well, and we hope to see you soon.